Good day, night, whatever. I do not give a shit. Yeah. I am Arom17Z here. Welcome to the Kiln. I am joined by two usual suspects who keep entering the Kiln at random occasions. The Calibri Body and Gigawatt.
That's me. Hello, we are here to do shit.
Do
Did
shit.
I uninstall?
Do shit? I did a shit before.
Oh no, did I uninstall Premiere Pro? Oh no, Creeper.
Okay. Well, he's doing whatever he's doing. This is Australia. Yes. We are all Australian. And the topic seemed fitting, as it is Australia Day tomorrow on the 26th of January. A Wednesday.
Wednesday.
A Wednesday. Wednesday was a funny word. Especially learning.
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Any other spelling of the days of the week that stumped you?
No, not at all.
It was just Wednesday.
Just Wednesday.
Wednesday was always the weirdest. It's like, why is that one special?
It was funny because it was actually not recent, but like I was definitely in high school when I realized that Wednesday was spelt like that.
What?
What?
Sorry.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was spelled like that.
Or two.
It was because it was never something I had to write. So
I hope not.
So I just fucking never knew, and then I'm like, what the fuck?
Even
because if the pronunciation of it is dumb when you look at the writing of it.
It's like
it's not consistent.
When
fuck English is dumb, inconsistent so many times.
But we're speaking about nasal voice. That's not what the topic is. The topic is Australia.
No, fucking Wednesday though.
Wednesday.
I mean, but Australia has Wednesdays, doesn't it?
I hope it rains tomorrow. Like,
nice.
It's probably still gonna be hot, but I just hope it rains.
Why do you want people's Barbies?
I don't care. I don't celebrate Australia Day.
And yet you're doing this stream to celebrate Australia Day.
No, I didn't say anything about celebrating Australia
I mean,
Day.
neither am I, but...
I just thought about a good topic is Australia. This has nothing to do with Australia Day.
You're so mean.
You're
so terribly unpatriotic. I'm not going to celebrate it either. But, like...
I don't know. I mean, I understand. Obviously, I understand Australia Day. I wouldn't say I've never, but I don't really celebrate it.
Well, I treat it like I treat my own birthday, an excuse to hang out with people.
Yeah.
Or more accurately, like a family celebration. Because that's usually where family members would meet, and then they would have barbecue. I'm like, my cousin that I like. Hello. That's the best excuse for that.
I do nothing. I've always done nothing.
Usually, almost every Australia Day, I meet up with my grandparents on the other side. Not for Australia Day, but we do.
I have never ever once done anything for Australia Day. What I usually do on Australia Day is I wear like a Greek shirt and just have like the Greek flag on my head or some shit. Because I honestly, I barely care about Australia Day. Like, obviously there's always those arguments about changing the day. It doesn't affect me. I don't feel like it affects a lot of people. Change it if they want, who cares?
Yeah, I don't see much of it. To be honest, I feel like the argument's a bit odd, because I don't see a point to keeping it on the day. If they want to change the day, who cares?
Oh, so you're gonna say the argument to change it was...
No, the argument to keep it, sorry.
Yeah.
No, to change it, fair enough, whatever. Right.
I mean, it means a lot to certain people. It means something else, so I can understand why. And therefore, I don't care to keep it on that day. There's far more negativity than there's positivity around keeping it there, so why bother?
Yeah.
Honestly, my experiences have been a little bit different with Australia Day in terms of how it's celebrated and how I view it. Being someone who doesn't have as deep of a connection with Australia, being that like all the imagery of like being Australian, either in media or whatnot, is either always Aboriginal or white Australian. So to me, who's someone who's not really a part of either group, it doesn't feel like I have anything to celebrate on this day because of how it's been shown throughout my entire life to be these two specific groups of people who have all this history in this country, where my history essentially is basically just starting in this country.
I don't know. I saw like a
There's a
couple of
little bit of
Australia Day
disconnect.
videos with a bunch of Greeks. There was some good shit, that one.
That was different. That was also like done out of comedy and whatnot, and how to do it. But I don't know. It's just a weird thing for me. Like there's just a disconnection with it with Australia Day, especially because Australia Day should be a day of realizing that we all come from different backgrounds. But if we keep being portrayed as different things within media or even just the day in general, like having ads, it feels a little bit. I don't know. It kind of goes against what Australia Day is really meant to mean to people, and I never really gave a shit about it or whatever. Just a bunch of blur. Mostly, I just remember people yelling and arguing about the day, and I never agreed with like anyone who like sought out to like harass other people on the day, like there have been in the past. It's just whatever thing. This is my own personal experience with the day,
33
so I don't really care too much.
The best thing that's come out of the day is the Super Walk episode. Let's be honest.
I mean, it's another public holiday. I feel I treat this public holiday the same way I treat the Queen's birthday. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, let's discuss the Queen's birthday. Happy birthday, anyway.
To be honest, I don't think anyone really gives a shit about the Queen's birthday.
No.
I think that's something.
It seems like a day
in
everyone agreed is a
England
public
if it's more
holiday.
of a thing, but I'm not sure about that.
Maybe true.
I'm not completely sure about that.
But here, I don't think many people would give a shit.
No, it's just we just use it as an extended little break, kind of. Kind of like the way that Americans use Christmas and New Year's as like their little extra break while they're starting school. We have them all towards the end of the year, which always like either a convention usually falls on. Sadly, haven't been there for over 2 years. I'm crying.
Sucks to be you.
Australia. I was actually looking at all the flags of Australia. Like all the states and territories have different flags. All of them are pretty much the same. It's just the Australian flag minus like the big star that represents all the states and whatnot, and adds just an extra image into it. Ours of Victoria is just the Southern Cross with a crown on its head.
Northern Territories is cool. I've always liked
Northern Territories is the orange flower with the Southern Cross in black and white. Yeah. Their one is uniquely cool. Yeah. Because it's the only one that really feels like it's different. It's trying to represent what its state is. Our flag realistically should just be the Southern Cross, because the Southern Cross has a big history in Victoria itself, with obviously the Eureka Stockade and whatnot. So I reckon our flag should just be the Southern Cross, like the olden one, like the bigs, where the star just takes over the whole thing. That's really it.
But then I suppose they put the crown there because of who it's named after.
Yeah, Victoria, Queen Victoria.
One of the Queen Victorias.
Should have been.
Not exactly sure which one, but one of them.
I assume the more popular one. That's the one I will assume.
More popular. I don't know which one. Brain.
Yeah, Australia.
Australia. Let's discuss like some states. Caleb, where have you been?
To the Queensland, to the Sydney, and obviously Victoria. But other than that,
so just that East Coast.
Yeah,
minus
but
obviously
not ACT.
Oh, you're missing out on absolutely nothing.
Yeah. To be honest, I don't know. I've never been interested in going to the others. Maybe Tassie, but I don't know. Western Australia. I don't know what I don't know what that's about. Northern
They are the
Territory.
most isolated like part of our entire country is Western Australia.
Northern Territory is like whoop whoop. So I'm not going there. And then South Australia, well,
I mean,
don't know.
Adelaide's actually relatively close to us.
Yeah, you
Adelaide isn't that bad.
quick drive,
Yeah,
relative.
workforce.
Had my grandparents drive all the way from Perth to here.
Oh,
Weird
that would have
asses.
taken forever.
Yeah.
Uh,
I've been to a bit both that Kayla mentioned, and then South Australia and Western Australia as well. Why is my dog pouting? I'm sorry I can't hang out with you. I'm busy.
she wants to join the stream.
And the ACT.
What's the ACT? Am I dumb?
Canberra.
Australian Capital Territory.
Oh god.
It's
Damn.
where Canberra.
Yeah,
That dumb thing that they made for some fucking reason, because people couldn't decide between having it in fucking Canberra or Melbourne or Victoria, Sydney or Melbourne. Sorry.
Yeah. Well,
So
it
put it
was
in
in
between.
Melbourne prior to it.
Yeah.
Like, I
And then
mean, we
people
have
have
the
to-
bloody courthouses and whatnot to prove that it was here before.
Yeah.
And it makes a lot of sense why it would be here, because we gained
Fuck
all that like
Sydney,
wealth
what
and
the fuck?
progress. Yeah.
Fuck Sydney.
Sydney
Went
is
to
always
Sydney.
Sydney is always that one place. Like, I feel like in media especially, where it's just like they're the ones that everyone knows. They're the ones that they show first. Is just Sydney because of like
Fuck
just
'em.
that unique little coast and whatnot.
Oh look, they've got the opera house. Get fucked. No one cares.
It's like going to America and only showing New York, and that's it.
To be fair,
That's
that
all
does
there
happen.
I'll tell you what. If I went to America, that's probably the only place I would go. To be honest, not only place, but like I would want to go to New York. Other places, I don't give a fuck. Maybe wherever, like all those theme parks and shit are.
California? I don't know.
Yeah, it's in
I'm
it's
not
in
in.
Anaheim.
That word did
I
not
don't know
fucking
US
register with me.
states.
What the fuck you just said?
Anaheim is in California. The only reason I know that is because I root for the
Is California
Anaheim
the state?
Hmm?
Is California a state or city?
the state.
Okay, I don't know.
Los Angeles is in California. Anaheim is in California.
Los
So Los
Angeles.
An-
San
No.
Francisco's in California.
Wait, Los Angeles is not a state. I thought it was a state.
yeah, I was about to say
No.
that.
Fucking
It's a
hell.
city.
You know, look at Los
Well,
Angeles,
you're
Las Vegas.
confusing me.
You know.
They've got like
Wait,
got
Las
as many-
Vegas isn't even a state.
No,
Fuck!
Nevada's it's the
They've
state
got
of
as
Nevada.
many- They've got as many states as some countries have cities. So it's like
Well, I
always get
barely
confused
say
as to what-
Victoria. I say Melbourne more often.
I get confused as to what is the state and what is the fucking city. See, okay. Here's the thing, right? Fucking Americans. All right, so hang on. They've got how many stages? They've got like 50 fucking states. Relax, we've got 7. You just need 7. You just have the big ones. That's it. You don't need to divide them up into little fucking chunks and have your kids learn all fucking 50 of them. No one. Oh, that's so dumb, bro. Just make it bigger.
Even 20-year-olds can't keep track of all of our territories, clearly.
Yeah.
And they've got 50 states?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Too many. I think we've got a few other. Well, I think we've got a few others, but like this shit.
We
I
have
haven't-
many
haven't we got, like,
islands and
an-
whatnot.
Haven't we got like
Canary Islands
another
and shit.
territories? Yeah, something
the
like that.
island and territory. I forget what it's called. Just a bunch of islands. Anyway, I never said where I've been in Australia. I've been to every
Yeah, you're
state
next.
minus the Northern Territory. That's the only place I have not been.
Have you been to
in.
Canberra?
I've been everywhere except the Northern Territory. I've been to Canberra multiple times. Obviously, school camp was was the first time I went to Canberra. And I remember back then, I think I was in grade 6 or whatever. We had to learn how to vote back then. And now that I'm an actually functioning adult, I don't remember shit about voting. I have not voted yet. But even still, I don't fucking know shit about voting. I don't recall any of that information that was taught to me in grade 6. Because I did not care. And I still don't.
You'd think I'd know how to vote, but man, I have no fucking...
That was always like one of the weird things, like with Americans growing up learning, is like how for us it is a must. We have to vote. There is no option there. Otherwise, we're getting fined. That's how it goes in our country. But in America, they can just opt to not. I'm thinking, okay, I get why that is, but still, I kind of like the fact that we have to vote because it at least grants a more equal spread of what we can choose and whatnot.
I like that it has to be like all of
Yeah.
Australia choosing their leaders, but I don't like how most of those people don't care and will put random numbers.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what.
Double-edged sword.
On
Yeah.
one hand, like because I used to think that America did a little bit better, where
Oh, their
you
system's
have
very
to,
confusing.
but now. But now I sort of have a different view in that I think it is a good thing to have people have to vote because at the very least, yes, there are going
They
to
would
be
have to be interested at some point.
there's going to be people who are going to put random, obviously, but there's also the chance that you're going to have people who might not have been fucked to now actually put something down,
Yeah.
and I can see how it could potentially increase the odds of getting a better leader as a result. So I do think that it is a good thing to to force everyone to vote. Because then I think it'll inevitably give you a better result than one where not everyone has to vote, and then people won't vote, and then they'll be like, "Oh, why is our government shit?" Well, I don't know, maybe, maybe.
You know what one thing is that I always felt kind of just, to me, is like, no matter where you go in Australia, it all just kind of feels partially the same. There's the mix,
Same country.
mix of random people don't really associate their state as something that's like prideful or whatever. It's just Australia. That's about it. Not a lot feels different. Of course, there are places that feel drastically different with the vibe that they give off. Like, I remember going somewhere, I forgot where it was, in New South Wales, and it was just, I swear to God, it was just hippie land. It was hippie land. No one was wearing socks. It was just...
Sounds right.
I
went to Sydney for like an hour.
There's so many vans and whatnot. Somewhere in New South Wales, I think north-ish, somewhere, I don't know. Like, I've been to Newcastle. Newcastle's just like, it's kind of like a town. It's whatever. Sydney, just nah. Just feels like you're randomly on some side of
Excuse me.
some side of Melbourne or whatever. It just feels a little bit different. Less protected by a bay. Brisbane, a lot of flooding up there.
Yeah.
Brisbane.
Queensland gets fucked.
They do get fucked a lot with weather and shit.
Hurricane, floods.
Yeah. They are a lot closer to the equator as well.
Bushfires is more down here, I reckon.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
After what happened at the start of 2020.
Yeah. Man, 2020, that feels like so long ago, which it really is.
Crazy, man. People were going, pray for Australia, do all this shit, and then a couple of months later, no one cares about Australia anymore. They're caring about their own fucking skins. Oh, that was fucking crazy. That's fucking crazy, man. But
yeah,
the bushfires here are us.
We also don't do anything to kind of just like protect the bushfires, because obviously it just gets hot and whatever, and spread.
We do, but it's just
Cool,
not
but
in suburban areas.
Yeah.
You don't see it, but in rural areas we do.
I mean, 2020 though, those bushfires. Trust me, we saw it.
Yeah.
In the suburban, we fucking saw it.
There was smoke everywhere.
Yeah, it was smoke covering everything. The moon was red for like 5 days. Like that's
not
how
in a good way.
bad it got. I went outside and you could smell wood burning, and it was not even close to my area. That's how bad it got.
What they'll do in rural areas is they'll burn off,
Yeah.
So they'll get dry leaves and stuff that can burn, and they'll burn it.
Yeah.
But in a controlled way, so that when it
Yeah,
gets
controlled
fucking
burns.
hot, there's not as much as much fuel for the fire,
Yeah.
and they do it a lot to to help prevent not necessarily prevent the bushfire, but have it so it doesn't do as much damage, hopefully.
Yeah.
And there's full like plans and shit that you're supposed to do in rural areas, so that if it hits, then where the fuck you go? Because Jesus,
Mm.
our bushfires can get. I mean, yeah.
Okay.
But I think last year was the biggest we've ever had. I think
I barely
21.
remember last year's.
not last year, sorry, 2020.
Oh.
Oh, you know what I mean? Fuck. Shit, fuck.
Ethan's like, it was so long. It felt like so long ago, and Caleb's like, last year.
No, but it all blends together. It is long ago, but it blends
Yeah.
together. You know what I mean?
It
feels like
it's
it's not- it
it's
doesn't feel
essentially
like-
the last thing I remember before going into all this COVID lockdown shit.
March 2020.
It doesn't
First
feel like
week of
it's been
March.
2 years. It feels like it's been 1 year. That's the length of 2 years. If that makes sense.
Each semester for me, in terms of uni, feels like it's been 1 year. So the bushfires feel to me like they've been 5 years ago.
How much work do you do, bro?
It's just you're just fucking staying inside, bro. Just yeah, could not imagine. It's like now I can finally imagine what it would be like for a prisoner, except for probably worse because less freedom in an area. But still, just being locked up in like essentially one room, even just isolating from your own family because it's like you don't know what's gonna happen and whatnot. And my family like keeps moving and going out, so we're all like isolated in our little sections of the house. You don't really talk to anyone, you don't really do anything, you just kind of like sit in your area. And obviously, even just during summer, I find it so hard to be productive because it's just so fucking hot.
That's true.
It just heats up. I'm just like, I can't be bothered. I really can't be bothered because it just feels so hot. And how hot?
That's just me without the heat.
Like our heat, of course, is very dangerous compared to the rest of the world, obviously because of that stupid ozone layer crap. But it's also like it just I think our heat just stings a little bit more, and maybe depending on where you are, the humidity can be quite shit.
There's also the thing with the sun as well.
Because we're closer to the sun, aren't we?
Our summer sun is quite dangerous when it comes to UV. So that's often an issue.
Yeah, like I've been in like I think one of those like just stopped like when I was going to Europe, stopped at like I think Qatar or whatever. I don't know. It's like so one of those like hot countries in the northern hemisphere, right? And like it wasn't as bad as here. Like obviously it was summer there, but the heat felt honestly different because it felt less like the sun's actually fully just striking you down, and felt more like there is an ominous heat in the air that's just a giant kind of like heat wavy kind of shit. So it's a lot more humid and whatnot. And that can be a little bit overwhelming. Whereas here it just like it fucking just tries to strike you down like you're a bitch. That's my explanation of the summer heat in my comparison and experiences with it. Like I remember being like at the Colosseum, and it was like one of the fucking hottest days in Italy during like the summer, and it was ridiculously hot. But it was just like that humid, just like and everything like reflecting off the like marble and whatnot, like everything just like shining at you. And I just remember like But yeah, I stand by what I said. The sun just tries to strike you down in Australia. It looks at you and goes,
Indeed.
"You're an ant." That's really how it goes here.
It's also annoying because like recently I don't know why exactly, but the heat has been causing more blackouts in my area. Which is
They're
fucking
melting
annoying.
your fucking power lines.
I wouldn't be
They're
surprised if that. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what's happening.
You're melting your power lines.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I feel like it. Yeah, like Ethan said, it's designed to fuck you up.
Mm. Sometimes Australian summers aren't that bad. Like I remember some good ones where it like wasn't that hot or whatever. But now I feel like it's a lot more noticeable, like especially when like storms coming or not. When storms come, but it's still hot.
I'll tell you what though, I like the smell of I like the smell of when it's like hot as fuck, but then it rains.
Hot,
And
yeah,
then it creates that I can't remember the name of it. But I fucking love it. I'll tell you what, my favorite weather is when it's hot, but it's like not. It is, no, it's hot, but it's like raining.
Mm.
And that's always cool. Obviously, then makes it fucking shit because now it's gonna be more humid. But that period where it's like hot, but it's not too bad. It's cool. Then yeah, that's I reckon that's it. That's when our weather's at its peak.
fair enough. I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not all bad. In the winter, it can get rather cold.
Meh. Winter is just more like weird because it's just rain.
Yeah.
Just rain. That's about it.
Cold rain.
Meh. Hail.
Sometimes hot.
No, we
Sometimes
get
hot
shit
days
hail.
as well.
We get fucked by hail.
Oh yeah, hail, yeah.
Hail
A
is
lot
what
of hail.
fucks us up. Otherwise, it's floods in certain parts of Australia. Not all parts, but certain parts.
Mm-mm. We don't really get floods, but
No.
poor Queensland.
Oh yeah.
We barely get cyclones, I feel like, down here. But we get a
Poor
lot
Queensland.
more. We do get a lot more, I think, storms and lightning and whatnot. I think we get that more down in the south. I'm just trying to think, like, all the things, like just generally, just the things you learn in school about Australia. Like, of course, you always have, like, Remembrance Day and whatnot. And, like, learning about, like, the Australian military. The Anzacs. Trying to remember other weird things. Of course, our ecosystem is one of, like, the weirdest and most unique in the world. Mostly because we don't actually have a lot of predators.
But we have a lot more things that'll kill you.
Yeah.
I think it's less that we don't have predators and more that we don't have mammal predators. Because we have a lot of insect predators and a lot of bird predators, but just
And reptiles.
not mammals. And reptiles, yeah, of course.
Crocodile. Snakes. But
But
no,
no,
like,
no
the
mammals,
most dangerous I can really think about right now is probably just a dingo. Which is essentially
Oh,
just a dog.
well, us.
Oh yeah.
Us. We're the most violent mammal.
Yeah.
Grrr. I mean, kangaroos.
We certainly do kill the
No,
most
actually,
creatures.
I can't even rank us on top when emus beat us in that war.
Yeah, but they're the bird.
They're the birds, it's true. But we still lost the emus.
I know. That was embarrassing.
And have you seen
get
how
'em next
jacked
time.
kangaroos can be? They'll just go like, just gonna knock you out.
We'll get them next time, lads.
I'm not fighting that war. The most dangerous war.
You'll be conscripted.
No, I won't. You can't make me do shit.
Yeah, you'll be conscripted to fight the emus.
No.
I'll fight for this country. Why won't you?
Because I don't want to fight a bunch of birds.
We need to destroy the emu menace.
I'll fight alongside the emus. They have a better track record.
If you can't beat them, join them.
Exactly. But
He's going to join the forces of the emus.
yeah, why not? I don't see a problem with it.
and he's going to become a spy and give them information.
Yes. I go, ah! Whatever noise they make. What's your
I
experiences
imagine
been
stuff
with, like,
flapping.
Australian animals?
Very few, if any at all.
Oh,
They live in
zoos.
suburban.
Zoos.
Yeah, went to a sanctuary, and that was fucking awesome, and that was it. Hillsville Sanctuary. I obviously have been to the zoos, but the zoos are just looking at them.
Yeah.
And
Kookaburras
zoos-
I think I've
fucking laughed
held
at
a
me funny.
koala before. I've held a baby crocodile before. I've been around, like, obviously those, like, little open bits with, like, just kangaroos and wallabies, like, running around and jumping around. It's been, like, one of those little areas. You see, like, the birds every now and again, the cockatiels, whatever. Kookaburra meat, very good for you.
I see kookaburras extremely often here. And
I
they
see
laugh at me.
magpies extremely
like
often here.
I've seen wallabies before in the wild.
Yeah, so have I. Yeah.
I've seen one.
Kangaroos, I'm
In the
not sure.
wild.
Possums, yeah.
Possums are possums.
I remember a possum fucking squished itself into like a 1-inch wide, like not between bricks, but similar enough for my primary school. But like there was a wall and like serrated between it. I saw there was a possum just stuck in there.
One thing
All
as a kid, that
All the
always-
kids thought it was dead, but it just once they pulled it out, it fucked off. It
one
just
thing that
surprised us all.
always confused me as a kid is the existence of squirrels. Because obviously you see like all the time in American media, but here it's like we have squirrels. No, I mean we do. I think we have like a flying fox or squirrel or whatever, but like, that's not really big and doesn't really show itself a lot. Honestly, I see a lot of bats at night usually.
Bro, who was I with?
See
I
a
was
lot of
with
bats.
someone.
I
It
remember.
was either
I think I was in Adelaide once and I saw like a swarm of bats. If they're called a swarm, I don't know what to call a group of bats.
it's got to have been Ryan. I was walking with Ryan at night one time for no reason, don't ask. And there were birds flying over. Except they weren't birds, they were bats.
Yeah.
And Ryan was just, and I was like, oh, look, there are bats. And he's like, what? We have bats? He'd
Yeah.
seen bats hundreds of times in the sky at night, and he always just thought they were birds. We got fucking bats here.
I think I
Yeah,
might
like,
have
Ryan,
seen
you're a
that last
fucking
night,
idiot.
but not last night, the other night.
We also have owls.
Yeah.
Oh,
I've
owls,
seen-
yeah.
I don't go to, like, actually, the best experience I have in wilderness here is parks, right? Because I'm not Caleb. So when I see actual Australian animals out in the wild, I'm like, oh, yeah, right, they exist.
They exist in
I saw
nature.
it's because I saw a kookaburra like 2 weeks ago when I went to walk the dog. There was one there. I'm like, oh right, we have those here in the fucking.
Yeah, you just forget things.
Sub-
I
suburbs.
honestly, when you said possums before, I forgot we even had possums.
Yeah, no, they're fucking everywhere. Yeah.
They are, but I haven't seen one in like a couple months, so I just have not registered it at all existing.
They keep shitting on my car,
Well, that seems like a you problem.
bitches. And yeah, it is.
They
a
shit
Somewhere.
everywhere. They like that shit everywhere.
That do
No
the
place
shit
is safe.
everywhere. No place is safe from the poo. That they go the poop poop.
I might just go Laxatora on them, to be honest.
Yeah.
But he has magical powers, and he prays to a deity that gives him powers.
I'll do it.
Alright, go do it. I believe in you. Victoria. Clearly.
Love that guy.
What?
What?
What? Clearly.
What?
A great state to be in.
It had like the most livable city in it at one point. Now it's like 4th.
Huh?
Fourth now?
It's second, isn't it?
Is it?
Second.
Unless
isn't
they
it?
changed it.
I'm pretty sure it's not first, and that's
Yeah.
all.
No, it's not first. It's not first.
Yeah, it changed to
It
second.
used to be.
It used to be first. We got beat by Venice.
Not Venice. Vienna.
Vienna.
That's the
oh
one.
yeah, right. Fuck.
You know, it would not have been Venice.
I was honestly mixing them up because they both start with
The
B.
most livable city. They're about to fucking sink into
Yeah,
the
right.
ocean.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Try living then.
I always love the fact that Hawaii is America's most livable city.
Oh yeah.
How
They
is
live-
that their most livable
They
city?
live on islands made of volcanoes, and they are always erupting, and they still live better.
And they have tsunami warnings. And
Yep.
still live better. Somehow. I think fourth is actually Sydney.
Yeah,
Or
it
something
might
like that. Also, I think a lot of the Australian cities were in like the top 20.
I know like the top 10 was like European places, Australia, and Japan.
Yeah. That sounds
And then
like...
Canada was also there.
Oh yeah, Canada had a city.
So yeah, fuck the US.
Yeah, fuck.
Fucking Canada's more
It's supposed to be Australia talk, and we keep saying fuck America, which is fine, honestly.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know what to talk about Australia for. It's Australia. It's a country. It exists.
What can I talk
Yeah,
about?
people-
Stop pouting because your parents aren't here. Go and fucking lie down in the beanbag and stop annoying the fuck out of me.
The poor
Anyway.
dog.
She sounds like her, but to be honest, if he's not getting enough attention, he starts to suck.
Yeah, she's so... Bruh, I fucking try to sleep. They go... My fucking parents go out shopping or whatever. They leave me with the dog. They don't put the dog outside. And she fucking pouts and barks so loud, I'm no longer asleep. Bitch!
He is a
If my dog doesn't feel like she's getting enough attention, she just sleeps.
I want... Go to sleep, fucking star.
Granted, my dog is a lot older than both of yours, I assume.
Yeah, I got a 3 human year old dog.
Like, you say 3 human years. It's 3 years. It's a year.
Yeah, I'm just making sure that you're aware that it's like that's the age.
Yeah, my
Don't
dog's
mix it up.
12. Which is very old for a dog. But she's little, so she'll probably
Yeah.
like, live till she's like 16 or whatever.
the smaller the dog, the longer they live,
Yeah.
which is interesting.
Honestly, it feels like that's how partially humans work. So, Alex, we gotta watch out.
Oh, bro.
That's it.
I think that actually is the case. The smaller, the bigger eye, the lower your lifespan.
Yeah.
For humans.
Of course, you can still, have to fall into that category. You can do healthy things in life. You can
Yeah, we don't have to
medicine
be.
getting better. Yeah.
What have I just been given?
A tissue.
Mashroom arrived.
You
Got-
finally got mushroom.
Yeah, finally got volume 3. And Black Clover 27. Mail just came in. Thank you, Father. Anyway, that's irrelevant.
He got mail. Our mail system is honestly not the best.
How so?
I don't know.
Because my mother works in the industry?
No. It's just probably because we are an isolated country and just importing shit can be annoying.
Well, I don't think that's too much Australia's fault, more
Yeah,
so.
it's more our
Just
But at the same
importing
time,
products
there's
just
also an
costs money,
advantage.
and that's just...
This is an advantage being kind of just alone in our own little place, not really having a border with any other country. We're just kind of on our own. The closest countries being obviously like Papua New Guinea and New Zealand.
What are they gonna fucking do?
Yeah. Always,
But then
it was
after
always one
that,
of,
it's
the
China.
It was always like one of the funniest things looking at like olden maps. It's like people found New Zealand before they found Australia. Are you stupid? just this gap. Just looking at like those olden maps, and there's just a giant gap in the
I love seeing
south.
the old maps of Australia, and they draw the maps as they knew them. So then, if they didn't know the rest, they'd guess. So I love seeing Australia, which is half like exactly our coast, and the other half's just a fucking semicircle. It's one of my favorite images of Australia. Just people trying to guess what Western Australia looked like.
Usually
Well,
it
that's
was,
it.
I think, based off of how how they mapped up against other countries and whatnot, not knowing how we fit the puzzle piece a lot of the time. Because obviously that was the whole suspect thing about Australia being a country in the first place, is like there's just this giant gap of space that doesn't make a lot of sense for like even just an island that was once part of Pangaea to be that far away and whatnot, like New Zealand is, and it didn't make a lot of sense. So they needed something to be there, and they weren't sure what it was. So they just tried to come up with something, not knowing how it actually like probably separated from like Pangaea, which we were never really connected. I think looking at the Pangaea thing, the puzzle, we weren't really connected to. The closest we were connected to Africa was being connected to Madagascar and India. Those are the two things we were connected to at the time.
I'm actually going to look at the Pangaea map.
So obviously there's a lot more safe passage during those times of, and it makes a lot more sense like how marsupials like came to be dominant if they could just like thrive here on their own without a lot of predators, and that's how we have such a weird and unique ecosystem if nothing kind of interfered with that at all. Like, could you imagine like a kangaroo crossed with a bear? What would that be?
That'd be funny.
I would be terrified of that.
No, I'd be terrified if it was.
Honestly, the most terrifying thing here is a croc. I mean, sure, the little motherfucking insects, but I mean, the fucking salt crocs, man. What the fuck? They're the fucking units of the animal kingdom, 100%. The fact that their design has not changed that much in like millions of years, just
It's because they're just
goes to show how good they are and how fucking good they are at fucking killing. Fucking units, man. Wouldn't want to go swimming in there.
I know that there's like crocodiles, alligators, like these creatures that have just not changed in millions of years. But I'm also amused by, I don't remember the exact details because I'm not actually very smart, and I'm sure you're both very aware of that. Several creatures just keep evolving into crabs. There are a lot of things that aren't crabs that look and act a lot like crabs because they've evolved into crabs. So what is it about the form of the crab? What is it about the form of the crab that makes animals go like, this is peak performance right here?
Defense. I don't know.
Money.
Money.
Krabby Patties.
They have a inbuilt ability for finance, and that ability has.
It took me way too long to get what you meant by money, by the way.
But it's made them the pimps of the sea world.
I mean, they live in their own houses.
There you go.
Or some of them.
Some of them are real estate agents.
Yep.
Some of them are real estate agents to dragons. I still find that funny. I'm going off topic, of course, but our first encounter in Dungeons of Dragons with a dragon was me playing realtor to the dragon.
Bro, okay, listen to me here. Vigesh and Caleb were discussing with this dragon to go away. I was playing the part of Dragon DM, like, discussing, and I hear, from the click, not the corner of my eye, corner of my ear, but I kind of hear you say something. And then after 5 seconds, because I didn't register it, after 5 seconds it clicks, I'm like, hang on, wait, Ethan, what the fuck did you just say? That click, like, bro.
It only helped that 2 of us rolled 20 in terms of persuasion.
He said, because he said something about, I know a place you can go. And as soon as he said that, it immediately clicked.
It took me seconds,
I knew exactly where he was thinking.
Those click moments, the moment where you're like, hang on, we've got that thing. It's happened before in other campaigns. And one of my favorite moments in one of George's campaign, that click moment where everyone suddenly is on the exact right page to do something the DM would have never anticipated. And now it's one of the best things in the campaign. That fucking, I know a place. Fucking mwah, peak, wonderful. Do it again.
I haven't been in a lot of fights ever since the dragon. I've just been chilling and vibing with Alex the owlbear.
Well,
Another great thing about Australia, no one gives a really. I don't really care too much about Australia. I don't have a great I'm not patriotic towards Australia at all. I'm glad. I'm more just glad that I live in this country. I'm glad I have all the options that I get from this country, and I'm glad I can meet so many more people and just kind of like learn to grow from other different cultures, whether that be from the east, from the west. Doesn't really matter. There's a lot of influence here from all corners of the world, which I'm kind of just like a little bit glad about. It's like I'm more appreciative of being Australian, because no way do I want to live in Greece. Greece sucks compared to Australia. I'm being genuinely honest. I even though I am more patriotic towards Greece, but that has more to do with family connection and like obviously being more proud of your family over the country that your family's from. Yeah.
I do think it's I do love, like, with Australia, I sort of view it as there is no Australian race. It's more it's more nationality than anything.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter what race you are, you can be Australian, and it's equally as valid. Which I just love how multicultural it's become, because again, like you said, there's so much stuff that has come from other cultures and is here now. It's cool. You know.
I'm not, like, things I'm glad about. Like, obviously, like I can't really speak Greek. My punctuation sucks with Greek and whatever. But like, honestly, I'm glad I know English. Yeah. And it's weird because even after school, right, my English feels like it's actually gotten better. The fact that I don't have to learn English. It feels weird. That just feels a little bit weird to me. Maybe because I use it a lot, especially like just writing like essays and whatnot. Still, but maths with me, I've basically completely forgotten all sorts of maths. I barely remember maths itself ever existing in my head at all. Showing how useless maths really is. Like, I'm sure you need some level of maths just like in your daily life or whatever. Like whether you're cooking, just doing like normal shit measurements that don't really equate to much. Like that's just simple maths. That's all you really need in life.
All the maths I do is when I roll physically, and then have to add the modifiers in my head. That's my maths.
Maths. Fun.
But I think in like, I mean, I suppose it depends, but I do think like within almost every profession, there is going to be some degree of maths.
Yeah.
Perhaps the only exception is the arts, maybe.
No.
But it depends.
Yeah.
It depends, but then it depends what.
Yeah.
Like.
It depends, yeah. I mean, if you're studying history with like arts, like of course.
But like, you know, you look at painting. I mean, of course, there's people who can be very particular with their painting.
Yeah.
And want it perfect, but then there's people who wouldn't give a shit. And if you don't give a shit, then you don't need maths.
I would say you would need maths more in the way that like even now like just like using rulers is a heavy thing. Like I have a shit ton of rulers on my desk because I use them all the time when I'm drawing and whatnot, even just designing and stuff. And for artists, usually when they're trying to put something up to conception, they usually use rulers and like sketch things in particular measurements and whatnot. But that's all like simple maths. It's just measurements. Like, can you read a ruler? Okay, you're good. What brush size you're gonna use and whatnot. Like, why this brush size? Little things like that. Like that's the kind of the akin to maths that you would use when you're an artist. I'm sure there's other examples, but like, I don't paint that much.
The exact like milliliter volume of how much paint you squirt out of the bottle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Measures the weight so you get the exact like ratio of colors.
Yeah.
See, now that's not an artist though.
That's
someone who thinks too logically. Should not be an artist.
Bro, I was fucking, the painting I did.
There is logic art. like with geometry and shit.
Oh yeah, that's pretty cool.
But I mean more in like the whole prep thing like that. Like, of course, you can still be logical about your art and the way you draw things.
Mm.
I feel partially logical. I mean, you would need a sense of logic, especially if you're like being an architect.
Yeah, of course.
Which is
true.
environmental design, which is heavy maths. That's the one you need maths for.
Yeah.
And partially industrial design. But that's, again, just measurements.
You need math, you need physics.
Yeah.
Chemistry, probably.
Yeah.
To some degree. Like, materials of what you're going to build out of.
In uni,
being an
like, a lot
architect
of the
would be a
people
pain
that
in the ass.
a lot of the people
fuck that shit.
a lot of the people that I met in uni were going after the industrial design path. I'm thinking, okay, cool. That's enough.
Have fun
doing that.
Have fun earning money.
What do you mean? The course I'm actually going through is quite open, and not a lot of people are in it as much. So there's a lot of job opportunities where I'm going, the path I'm chosen, which is good. Plus I have a backup as well that adds on to the reason why I could be good for a job, being my second degree. Mm. Our school system, I remember, I think 2 weeks ago, maybe like a week ago or whatever, I remember talking to an American, just like casually, just when like everyone left the call, and I was just left talking to this guy, and we were just chatting about like the differences between like our school systems, like there and here. Like I was talking about like they told me, like in the American school system, in terms of university, you have to take like the core subjects in university, like math, science, English. I'm thinking, that's shit. But of course, they get a lot more freedom and choice in terms of what they choose to do in uni. Unless, of course, you're going through a specific path that you're just going straight for. They get a lot more, like, leeway in terms of, okay, I can take a pottery class maybe or whatever, and that will give me some credits. Whereas here, you're just directly working towards your goal. We don't need the whole core subjects, whatever. We have core parts of our unit to get our degree, but then it kind of just branches off into what you are trying to achieve, what you are trying to do. It's a lot more focused on that, and I'm kind of glad it is, because I would hate being in university and still having to do maths.
And the core subjects there for us are all depending on what we do.
Yeah.
So you would only do maths if to get the degree you would require maths. Like in my course, in my course I do have to do maths, or I can do maths if I want to move on to something else.
Yeah.
So.
But again, that's a specific maths that you'll be learning for like a semester.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, I suppose it's a bit more specialized, but then we can still choose like different other subjects.
Yeah.
And even then, the maths isn't core. Like I could say, no, fuck that. I just will not have a path into it. I won't have the pathway into another area.
Yeah, like with me, like I was still doing like courses that also pertain to industrial and environmental design, despite being a communication design student, and that's what I'm going after, the communication design. But I still had to do that, and like I'm glad I know how to do those things. I learned more about it in high school and whatnot, and that was also one of like the weirdest things in class. I remember, is that and even just this. We'll talk about this for 1 second. In terms of university in Australia, no other state feels more prepared in university than Victoria, because we have so many. And
we have quite a few.
Yeah, like obviously most of the universities in the other states that I know of are like very small ones. Otherwise, they're just like the Sydney University, Adelaide University. Obviously, we have our own Melbourne University. But here it feels a little bit more open, where there are so many different paths you can take. And it's partially one of the reasons why, in our state specifically, was actually called the education state. Because we have a lot of education and a lot of applications to kind of help. Like if someone like tells you like this is the university, you kind of make assumptions about what they actually do in that university. Like someone tells you deacon, I just think that law students.
I mean, to be fair,
But besides that, they also do a lot. They put a lot more into like law and that kind of stuff, and even humanities a bit more. Or someone tells me Monash, I think more about like maths and sciences because that's what they kind of work with.
Yeah.
Someone tells me either RMIT or Swinburne, I think more about design and arts and computing and all the weirder ones that.
I mean, to be fair.
But that's what they're known for. That's also what they're known for, and where a lot of their shit comes from. Like I remember, like running around the RMIT campus, they had so much more focus on these different things and these different aspects over like something like science or maths, which I felt like was very small in my time roaming around, just looking at shit. Yeah. Back then, which in my brain, of course, was like 7 years ago.
But even the limited amount of places I saw in RMIT, because RMIT's campus is fucking
huge. What's tall?
It's
Weird.
so separated. It's not like there's not like one building.
No.
There's a building there, then there's a building over there, and there's a building over there. It's not one area.
But it's also
separated.
because RMIT is in the city as well, that you don't feel like you're just on a campus. You feel like the city is just in. You're just in the city.
Yeah.
Whereas like Swinburne for us, or me, is more on a campus properly. Like there are like kind of like two halves of the campus, but it's still just like there's buildings everywhere, sure, but it's all in like the same general area of like this is Swinburne.
Well, there's some buildings literally down the road after you pass some residential areas.
Yeah. But most of like the big buildings and the ones that I go into are all basically in the same area, just on the one side, just in that little corner, which has like the biggest buildings for like engineering and design and media. Those are the rooms I'm in.
No, I'll never forget when the first time I was going to like that orientation shit, and I was trying to find where RMIT was. I couldn't find the. I know. So I couldn't find it, and I'm going down this street. And I'm like, fuck, I can't find it. I'm hungry, so I went to a KFC.
No way.
And there I am at the KFC, just eating, and I look out the window, and there I see it, RMIT.
Oh my fucking god.
So the message here is that if you're ever in doubt, go to KFC and you'll find the answer.
This is the wisdom of living in Australia. The wisdom.
I just looked outside and there it is. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Okay.
Even just fast food, like, having our own unique fast food restaurants seems weird. And we do have one, but it's always, I just feel like the view of it is just so like it's the shittest one, and that's Red Rooster. That's an Australian fast food chain.
I'll go there if KFC runs out of chicken.
Yeah, essentially. Like I'm sure there's people who like
Red Rooster there.
I'm pretty sure, like of course there's people who like Red Rooster, but it's like I never see anyone really like just like oh let's pick up some Red Rooster. No one's gonna say that.
You know I haven't been there in ages though. I need to go to one again because I've literally years.
Good luck finding one.
Like the one near my house closed. I'm sad because I'd go there every once in a while.
There's one, near the close one I know of is the one, you wouldn't know where the location, but it's the one that Superwog did their video at.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's near, that's near my.
I have
Close
one.
I can get.
At some point.
I have
not
one near my
it's
first
just-
primary school. Like it was on the corner of the street my first primary school was at, which is relatively close.
Mm.
That has always stayed like a Red Rooster.
Closest fast food I have is a Macca's, of course, because Macca's is everywhere. And that's the Tacoma one. And that's one because Tacoma was like having. Because the people there,
Yeah,
the people
Macca's would
there
be my
are all
closest
like.
as well. Because it's
They're
just
all-
there's one on North Road.
They're all like hippies. Not hippies, but you know, nature. They're like they're nature oriented. So like when Macca's was
They don't
trying
wear
to
deodorant.
when Macca's was trying to build their the restaurant there, everyone was protesting and shit.
Wow.
Macca's didn't care. They built it there and it's still there. But yeah, no, people didn't like it, but it's there now and people eat there. So
What you gonna do?
yeah, I think that's as far as I know, that's the closest. There could be one closer.
Hmm.
Well, actually, I'm more mean chain because obviously there's fast food
Yeah,
in my place, but not. Well, no.
like a big recognized fast food chain. The
Yeah.
closest one
yeah.
to me is McDonald's, but like there are other ones that are like
Okay.
relatively close, I guess.
Hang on, was Schnitz ours as well?
Is Schnitzel's? It might be.
Yes.
Grilled
yes.
is
Schnitz.
grilled ours?
Schnitz is a godsend. Okay?
Yep.
Schnitz is absolutely fucking beautiful.
Grilled
Right.
is an Australian one as well, which focuses on burgers.
I haven't been. What? Have I been to grilled? No, I don't think so.
They focus on more like high quality burgers for a fast food restaurant. I say high quality.
Nando's is
Right.
South African. Oh, Nando's is South African. Huh?
Yeah.
It's also very popular in America. In not in America, in England.
Porto is Aussie and New Zealand.
Good for them.
There's another one. There's another like a Vietnamese one.
Oh, is that
Roll.
Hog's Breath?
Yeah, rolled.
It did.
Rolled
Hog's
is
Breath. Less fast food more.
even more. The creator of rolled is actually from the high school we were from. That we learned shit at.
The high school we learned shit at.
Yeah, that's,
Really?
that's what I'm going with.
Yeah, rolled Viet. Yeah.
It's Vietnamese, but it's also like
Victoria has a lot of Viet. A lot of Viet in.
They do? I hadn't noticed.
we do.
No, because then here's what I know. This is weird. I don't get it. But there's more Viet here. But then when I went up to Cairns, there was more Japanese. There were more Japanese places. I don't know why. I'd be very interested to know the reason. Maybe it's just I don't know. But for some reason, there's the Chinese I think are in. I don't think they've really picked a spot. I think they were in both areas. But for some reason, there was more Japanese in Cairns than there was in Melbourne, which I found rather interesting. Interesting to know the reason.
I don't know. There's little bits. I feel
Like Vietnamese being around is not hard, difficult to understand, but the Japanese is curious.
It's not so much them being around. It's just sort of like why those locations.
Yeah.
Specifically, I don't know.
why.
That makes me
Oakley?
wonder why is Melbourne the second largest like congregation or largest area where the Greeks exist? After second to Greece?
What's your problem? You got a problem?
No, I don't have a problem. I'm
Melbourne?
curious as to why.
Why Melbourne?
Why is Melbourne the place where all the Greeks go like, I want to go there? That's after Greece.
I have a very good hunch, and the reason
What's
is money. I mean,
Melbourne
that's the whole
specifically?
reason why a lot of like Vietnamese people came here is the gold rush and whatnot. And even
Well,
after
no,
that,
it was
like,
a lot of that was
yeah, but even after
refugees.
that, there was still a lot of wealth within this place, especially in those early times, in the early 20th century. So of course, more Greek people would go like, oh, it's more wealth, more
Also,
opportunity
be
in
just
this area.
like it could also just be like talk because like
Yeah.
think about it like this.
No,
if
they do
you're-
talk
It's also it's like if one person goes to this area and you're of the same kind of race, you want to kind of stick together. Of course, over time that slowly skews, but there are
If you're
still those pockets of either you're like there are still pockets in Australia, or even in just Melbourne, like where they have
that's
Greeks
just,
in
that's just
this
a subconscious
area.
thing.
You have like the Jewish in this area, like whole
Like,
little bits. Places.
if you had if you're from Vietnam or Greece and you want to move to Australia, you would probably be like, oh, well, I knew a mate who went here. I'll go here as well, and then the other guy will go, oh, I know two mates that went there, I'm gonna go there as well. And then it just eventually it's just like, all the Greeks are here, I'm gonna go here. All the Viets are here, I'm gonna go here. Which is that's actually probably what happened. That's probably why there's certain concentrations. Just my mate in here, I'm gonna go here as well.
It's a subconscious thing just to congregate around people who look like you because that'll leave you feel more comfortable. It's not a racism thing. It's just a subconscious human thing.
Yeah, I still think the greed aspect is very very correct as well.
Yeah, that might be
might just be my family, but I mean, not even like my on my mum's side, they didn't even start in Victoria. They were in Adelaide before Victoria. So even that with that, like they could have just known more people within Melbourne and then just moved from one state to another. Beyond that, to be closer to more of the same people or more family, generally family.
There's a question I gotta ask Waggy at some point. If we do all subconsciously go towards people that look more like us, how the fuck did Waggy end up here?
What are you talking about?
The fuck?
Well, there's quite a lot of Sri Lankans here.
Yeah, there are a lot.
Yeah, when we were in school, there was those groups of Sri Lankans and other the ethnicities would come close to each other. We're all wogs, for example. We all pointed over there.
We're all different
didn't
wogs.
give a shit. Our group didn't give a shit.
Yeah, but what the fuck happened to us?
Oh, we really did not care. No, our group did not care.
Aussies, Sri Lankans, just everyone. We didn't give a shit.
Yeah. We're all different. We don't care.
No, we didn't. Well, we didn't have like a,
No.
you know,
we more just like bonded over interests that we found of like living in Australia over just being of like the same race or whatever, being similar. Because who wants to be similar to a bunch of annoying people?
I always find it amusing when there is that exception. If groups tend to be formed initially, at least by similarities and looks, how do some exceptions eventually come to be? Aside from just obviously,
we're all a bunch of weirdos. That's how.
Yeah, that's it.
We're all and in that case, how the fuck does Alex did hang out with us?
But I'll tell you what. Maybe it's because like, okay, here's my theory, right? It's because we're geeks, right? And I think that box was greater than the racial box. So like, geeks would not hang out with people who weren't geeks.
To my
So if you were a geek, you wouldn't hang out with people who weren't geeks.
No.
You would want to hang out with other geeks, and that connection is stronger than the racial one. You would rather hang out with people who have the same interests than people who have from the same background. And I believe that's probably why we never gave a shit.
Yeah. Well, that's obviously why we here are talking about this, why we played Dungeons & Dragons with Waggy, and we can talk to even Dean about some things that he'd care about. But we also have Jack, who likes UFC, and we have like Jake and Vigesh, who like cars in this friend group.
But then they also
and they have their own little group as well.
But then they also have things like they also do geek shit. You know? They also play games and shit, so there's games, also that connection.
They watch Marvel and Star Wars. And DC occasionally.
Yeah, well. But yeah. Which I think is I think that's what made us not give a shit. Meanwhile, others that are, you know, I mean, even then, even in our school, not every single Asian hung out with every single Asian.
No.
Yeah.
There were still different groups within that, and I think that's what created that.
Even just like when you're in a class and it's like you just go towards someone who you can talk to over someone who you barely know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's like how I became friends with some of the Asians, is simply because I talked to them and like we just kind of bonded over being stressing over the workload that we had to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stressing over schoolwork. That's the way to bond.
That's how you do it.
That's how you do it, yeah.
It's also, I think it's sort of funny when within the group how we can then sort of talk about each other's races and all that without us giving a shit, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Filthy
You know what I mean?
Italian.
Yeah, the amount of times Jack and I have gone back and forth, just jokingly
Bro,
called out the other
some
person's
of the
nationality. It's just funny.
some of the shit you say is genuine. Will get you cancelled, bruh.
But with the context of the group,
Yeah.
it's like, who cares?
No, it's great. It's funny as fuck. But
I
sometimes
think that's
I'm like,
just a
what?
general friend thing. It's like, who cares? You're not really going out there just to out of your way just to hurt someone.
Right.
Not
Yeah, of
like
course.
that.
Remember Winston?
Yeah.
Like him. Well, we used to say the most racist shit to each other. He'd have a go at me being white, I'd have a go and being Asian. We didn't care. We didn't care. Now that doesn't mean I would go up to another Asian and say the same thing.
Obviously.
I wouldn't.
No.
But with Winston, it was different because we understood that with did not hard feelings.
Yeah, no.
He'd make fun of me that I would get low scores. I got low scores anyway. But he'd make fun of me because I'd get low scores because I'm white, and then I'd make fun of him when he didn't get high scores. Like one nuts, I think he didn't get a perfect score, and I'm like, oh, that's it for you. You're out on the streets. But then he'd turn around and say to me that I'm probably not going to get a good score. So I think that's.
It's beautiful.
I think that's the beauty of the multicultural shit.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic when you're able to have so many different cultures mixing, and when you're able to talk amongst cultures without having any hard feelings. And I think it's something we definitely have over the older generation. Is that ability?
Yeah,
It's
so
also-
even if
it's
there is
also
that
fun.
subconscious thing to connect with people that look like you, we are breaking that to the best we can.
But it
Exactly.
also depends what culture you're from and how that implicates things. Because even nowadays, even still, there are those old people who don't view gender even the same.
Yeah.
Like there
Oh,
are
yeah.
still people, and just the random misogynistic things like even I just hear on occasion just feels so stupidly stupid that it just doesn't feel right. It's like
You know,
obviously I also hate when like it's like, oh look, this thing is different because women are different and blah 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 blah, and it's like, okay, like on the radio, like on a drive like to my grandparents' house, they were talking about like females AFL wanting to be like at the same status as the male AFL in like a rather short time. But keep in mind that of course there are certain things about this where it's like, one, you need to have the audience. You need to have those people go out and watch to earn more money, to gain more status. And two, the men's sport wasn't just went from oh, this is a game to the stadiums. It took like 100 years for that game to be well known, well popularized, for people to actually give a shit and watch. So you're rushing things for the sake of what? For equality. But then that's not really equal, is it?
It's also interesting because I've also heard older women say they don't like the AFLW. So they don't. I've heard it. So the thing is in the end of the day, what you want to do is, if you want more money, what you need to do is you need
to gain that audience.
Get people watching it.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not going to watch it. I don't watch the regular AFL. I don't watch
same.
sports. But you need to get people who actually watch sports.
Yeah.
To have an interest in both. That's what you've got to end up doing.
Yeah.
Right. I think I watched an AFLW thing, and it was I'll tell you what, I probably would rather watch that because they were fucking brutal. I don't know, that one I was watching, they were brutal to each other. I don't know. The men's one, they weren't that fucking, but I don't watch sport. You know, you need to get someone who is going to buy the memberships, who's going to buy the footy jumpers and all that, and that's how you build up the wealth.
Yeah, it's also like it's just you have to build up that status because like they're not playing on like the professional grounds that the males do, but at the same time, you look back like 50 years ago, the men were playing on those same grounds. They put in their time, they put in their dues, and they got popular enough to be like I think, the fourth highest attended sport in the world. I think that's what it is.
Really?
Yeah, the fourth, which is honestly kind of impressive, because it's
That is
only
very
just Australia, literally.
I couldn't give any less shits about it, but even I know that it's a massive.
Yeah,
You go, it's not. It's surprising the top 4, but
Yeah.
not surprising top in the world.
it's just one of those weird things where it's like, damn.
Oh yeah,
Oh my god, he's fucking right.
Caleb, you said something, and it made me remember one occasion. You said that's what differentiates us from the old generation.
Yeah.
That reminds me, when I initially started dating my aunt, her father went up to her and started asking her questions about me. The second question was, "What race is he?"
Yeah.
Right, and then she answered, "Oh, he's Greek," which technically isn't true, but that's fine. Um, apparently, the reason he asked was not because he cared what it was; he just cared that I wasn't something. He specifically did not want her daughter to be dating a Muslim.
Ah,
I find that because she still has that race that they're just all.
I mean, technically, you're Middle
I'm
Eastern.
Middle Eastern. Yes, I'm rather close, but he doesn't need to know.
Yeah.
But it is interesting. But you know, I heard someone put it a good way somewhere, and they just said like, I mean, these older people, their views aren't going to change. You know what I mean? Some of the older
I
people,
was
they've
not
lived
intending
so
to change
long,
it.
they've lived so long through so many different experiences. There's
Some
no
of them,
point.
not really.
You've got to, what you've got to do is you've got to work on the younger people whose minds can change, and and hit it there, you know. So
Even just like random hostile things and just ideas of like, oh, I should hate you because of this certain event. Like, like Greeks should hate Turkish because of the Ottomans enslaving the Greeks for like hundreds of years. Like, I don't really care. Like, sure, I'm sad like that's happened to my ancestors and that happened to my family, but like, I'm not gonna bloody persecute people just because that happened. Like, fuck that. Like, that happened over 200 years ago. It's not like I have a deep hatred for this people, for this group of people specifically. No, why should I just assume that they should be better off, just like I am. I'm not holding any grudges against this, but like, of course, still some of those older generation do, because maybe they have a lot more connection with it because of their parents. Because like 200 years in terms of family trees, like that would have just been like their great grandparents or whatnot. I always love like the little facts though, like even just like about history and things. Like people say like certain like groups or just like dictators saying like no one fights like a Greek. I always love that. That makes me happy. This just makes me feel like, okay, yep, we're some weird fighters.
but it is. I mean, I do dislike the old sins of the father sort of
Yeah.
idea that people can push sometimes. Like, I don't.
I can understand how it comes about, enacting revenge and whatnot, and feeling personally hurt and persecuted and whatnot, but still, nah.
What's the point? I mean, like, what's the point? Because in the end of the day, what you want to enact revenge? Well, then you're going to enact that revenge. But then some people are going to get annoyed by that, and they're going to want to enact that revenge onto you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And it
So
just
okay,
continues the cycle.
It's
But-
just a
but,
cycle of hate.
you invade them, then they're going to invade you because you invaded them, and now they're going to invade you because you invaded them, and then it's just going to keep on going.
Or even just the generalization of such events. Like I remember, like back with the events of 9/11 and just I remember being in school learning about what happened, and not all of them are from the same race, but because they're of similar races, and partially my the what group I'm associated with was attacked. It kind of felt a little bit threatening that like this could happen. They could beat up this just random groups of people because this one event happened that none of them are associated with.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that kind of felt a little bit scary to me, like learning about that in school, just like like I could be hit because of this reason. And even just like when people just trying to make fun randomly, sometimes that obviously they can take it too far because I'm not your friend. You should not be saying this to me. You shouldn't be telling me this constantly. You shouldn't be calling me this because I'm not your friend. And the tone as well depends on how you say it and whatnot. You can alter it. Yeah, there's little things.
Tone. I mean, look, it's because people. I think sometimes people can simplify stuff.
Yeah.
Especially with various things you could call people or say certain words you could say. In right or wrong, I think it just comes down to context and how you say it and how you use what you're doing. In the end of the day, words are power. How you use it. You know what I mean? So it's like with the word wog. I mean, I don't think it's inherently a bad word. It's just depending on how you use it.
And of course, it once was meant to mean something bad, but it has also partially evolved since then to just mean like this certain group of people from this area, like south. It just means basically like from the Mediterranean. That's essentially what it means now.
Yeah.
That's essentially what it means.
Yeah.
But beyond that, it's like
now it's. I mean, in some ways, it's now becoming lessened because you obviously got Super Wog, and I think a lot of people watching that don't realize where Wog came from. But, you know, it's not being used in a malicious way.
No.
You know?
Yeah.
It's not used to degrade anybody. It's just being used the same.
But still,
I think.
But it's still also like one of those things where it's like, I don't actually use it. Like, I might be part of this group, but I don't really use it necessarily. Like
I use it to describe us sometimes.
Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah,
I just use it to describe us. Like, cause I also like the fact that we're kind of like different wogs.
Yeah.
And like I do feel like there are kind of levels to wogs and how easy and off they get in terms of like the racial thing status kind of with it. Italians I think get off partially easy, then like Greeks behind that, and of course Middle Eastern kind of gets the worst of it, but that's also associated with other things.
Middle East generally gets.
And of course, you two aren't just wogs as well. You also have a greater extent of other heritage within you too.
Yeah. Mine's more Anglo-Saxon.
Yeah. But like, if I look at you, Caleb, just on a general basic look at you, I couldn't tell that you're Italian.
Yeah.
It's only from the way you act. Then I can tell you're Italian.
I've only ever had one person, like, supposedly see, like, a physical feature that he picked out I was Italian, but he said he recognized it after I told him. So he could have been bullshitting. But I told him I had Italian heritage, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I can see that your nose or whatever." I don't know. He could have been bullshitting, but that's the only time I've ever been sort of close to visually someone said, "Ah, yes, Italian."
I remember when I was younger, because of my last name, a lot of people assumed I was Italian, which is incorrect. But now that I'm a lot older, and even in my times when I was in Greece, one of the reasons I was loved in Greece so much is because I actually looked Greek. And now when people look at me, it's like, okay, he is Greek. I don't know what it is about me. Probably my nose, eyebrows, hair, whatever.
I would have never assumed your names were.
Yeah, just and then it's like, okay, that's my last name. Look at my first name. Look at my first name. How are you telling me that's an Italian name?
I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
People who aren't Greek wouldn't get that.
Yeah, but
I don't get how you. I don't get how you would. If I looked at the name, I would either think Greek or Latin.
Fair enough.
But then no one calls it. Well, I can't say that. There are names people have that are from Latin, but I would largely assume it would be Greek.
Especially if I didn't recognize it. Where we are. And even just obviously my skin tone will give it away and whatnot.
Yeah.
That was one of the things I was like, I was a little confused about, like the whole white idea, and even just like the White Australia policy, which is ridiculous, by the way. If you don't know the history behind that, that's horrible. That's honestly horrible.
Yeah.
But even just like looking at like, okay, am I white? Meh. I don't really give a shit. I never considered anyone to be like a specific color, it's just people. That's how I was always just thinking when I was young. It's like people call me white. I'm thinking, am I? I don't really look all that white. And even just like the base of my skin tone.
Well, you're a lot whiter than most of them.
Obviously I'm a lot whiter than other people. But if I just look at the base of my skin tone, sometimes it looks more yellow than white. I'm just saying. Obviously because of that Odyssey thing.
But I guess it
tone
depends.
Sometimes looks a bit grey to me.
Because like I know my grandmother is whiter.
Yeah.
But her father, I remember being quite dark.
Yeah.
My grandfather, not too dark, but his skin's a bit yellower, so a bit more Mediterranean sort of skin. So I'm not sure, and you know, a lot of it could also be like environment as well.
Yeah.
I mean, my grandmother came
environment and blood
when she was quite young, so perhaps it's just because I don't know, maybe just because the way she lived or whatever, her skin's a little bit lighter than what her.
I think it comes down, especially nowadays. I think it comes down more towards depending on how far back you go, of course. Like it depends more about ancestry and like less so than environment sometimes.
Yeah, true.
Because like there are still like a lot of people. Like I remember looking at like apparently this white woman like did like a DNA test, and it said to her that 60% of her DNA was actually black African American, but she was completely white. But 60% of her DNA is telling her that she's this, but she still, I think, said in the thing that she didn't feel like she was of this group because of her skin color and whatnot, and she wasn't pronounced to be a part of this group, despite being partially sometimes having more DNA of this one culture than other people who actually do appear as that culture. She won't pronounce that. Of course, it's part of her and it's part of her culture, partially, but she's not gonna like say that she's that or not. And it's just a bunch of weirdness.
I always like I always feel sorry for people who are like half black and half white, because they get a shit into the straw, because like on one hand they're not people consider them not to be white enough, and then people consider them not to be black enough, and it's what that like that's the reason I think all this color and race shit is so fucking dumb. Like what like who gives a shit whether someone's white or black? Who gives a fuck? You know what I mean? Just I don't know.
Well,
and I think
just the core of racism, isn't it?
But it's funny because some people
calling racism stupid.
some people who like who are against racism, unfortunately, push racist things. They like they say we don't like racism. Yet at the same time, they create even more division by saying, "Oh, it matters whether you're black or white." And I'm thinking, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Do you not see how that like perpetuates it? Do you not understand how by seeing people a certain way, you end up putting them in boxes and you end up creating division? Yeah, that fucking baffles me.
Mm-hmm.
My philosophy is just I don't give a fuck. You know, you're a race, okay, cool. I don't care. Unless when it comes to the food, in which case if you can make good food from your country, then yeah, different. But every day treating people every day on with everyday life, I don't care.
Yeah. Obviously, like no matter what, racism will always partially exist, which is a horrible fact of life.
Of course.
And we're not sitting here saying like Australia's the perfect example of anything. Like, despite like us being the most livable, that's still not the best country in the world. Because I never think that there is a best country in the world. Each country has their own problems. Sure, you can be better at some things than another country, but that doesn't make you better overall than anyone else. And it's just partially that idea of like being better than someone that kind of adds to that kind of hypocritical nature of it all. Where it's like, oh, I'm American, I'm better than you. Which is something I have actually heard before from multiple people who are American, who actually think that they are better than someone from a different country. Which is ridiculous. Like, it's such a weird thing to me when just Americans say that they are better. And again, it's like, it's just one of those random things I heard. Or even just, like, I remember like the one argument I had with someone. This also pertains to being Australian, is driving on the left side of the road. I remember having an argument with an American whose whole logic was the fact that this was his logic, that we drive on the wrong side of the road because American invented cars, so therefore they should decide which side of the road that they drive on, which is weirdly false because Americans did not invent cars at all. Germans did.
And also
Carl
they
Benz is
didn't.
the first person who's given the title of inventing a car, who is German. And besides that, what does a car have to do with a road? A road has been around since ancient times.
Bro, fucking Americans that think they invented cars.
Yeah. Yeah. And even beyond that, it's like, alright, okay, you could think that, but roads still were invented fucking ages ago in ancient times, where people drove their donkeys or carts on the left side of the road because they could hold the cart and keep going, while the more dominant hand of the world could always have their right hand holding a weapon, or the more dominant pronounced thing. So even when you're driving a car, your right hand, which is the dominant hand for the majority of people in the world, would be holding onto the wheel while you use your other hands to change gears and whatnot. So it's a lot more focused on that. Like, of course, like, I'm not saying our drivers are great, because we have a lot of shit drivers in our country, let's be honest. I don't know. They were even talking about, I think, changing the age from, like, because it's usually, like, from 21, like, it doesn't matter how many hours you do, you can just get your learners, or, I mean, get your Ps or whatever. That's how it goes. But they were talking about changing that to 25. I'm thinking, if they do that, they should at least change it so, like, you should do a sum of hours when you're 21 and you can take your test. Like, make it like 80 hours of driving. Like, do that instead. Granted, of course, like, I was talking to my mum about this, and she said, like, she had, like, about 10 hours before she, before she got her driver's license.
Yeah, they used to be really lax.
Yeah, obviously they were a lot more lax, but over time they've gotten a lot more stricter about it. Like, even just now, like, we have to do, 20 hours of night driving. Specifically night driving in it. And even just alters and changes, like, how we drive.
Too many night hours, to be honest.
Yeah. I think one of the things I was looking at was, like, one of the annoying things as well is, like, I was comparing how, like, we start to drive compared to how Americans do it, which they partially learn, like, in school, as well as, like, they can book to things, and they don't need to, like, get a learners before they start driving. They just, like, hop in the car with their parent or someone who can drive, and they just drive. They don't need some sort of special L symbol to represent that they have this and they have to do this and blah 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 blah. Like, they don't learn. Like, and that's the learner's test doesn't teach you how to drive at all. Just teach you the rules of the road. That's it. That's all it is. Teaches you rules of the road, which is partially even more annoying now because there's bicycle paths.
They more expect the parents to teach you how to operate the car.
Yeah. Operating the car, and of course, like, doing, like, either just, like, lessons with people. That's also like one of my fears, is going to, like, my test, and I don't fit in the car. I don't fit in a lot of cars when I'm driving, and it actually
one of my
physically
fears.
hurts. So if I try and, like, go for my Ps, which I'll be trying to go for at, like, the end of the year, because where the fuck do I have to go to drive? It's like I really have nowhere to go. But even beyond that, just that's my biggest fear is not being able to fit in the car. Cause if I don't fit in the car, my leg actually feels the physical pain of being stressed out and having to move and whatnot. Because it's all too close together. Like literally when I'm driving a bloody SUV or whatever. My chair's literally all the way back it can go. That's essentially because that's the only way I can actually drive. And even beyond that, my eye line is bloody on top. Is bloody on top of the bloody mirror or whatever, the windshield. So I can barely look up because my eye line is too high because I'm just too big. Which of course, it's like, why do you need to look at the sky? I can see the road, I can see other cars, whatnot, I can see things that are in front of me and whatnot. But still, my eye line's not perfect.
I had a similar thing. I was told like the spacing between you and the car in front of you, need to be able to see their tires.
Yeah, that's what I learned. Yeah.
I always imagine I drive and I wait at the red light and I can see their tires, but but whoever's next to me cannot.
Yeah, that's the thing as well. Like I remember getting like a little bit yelled at because it's like my mum was yelling at me. It's like, oh, you have to be this far away from the car in front of you, but my mum is vastly shorter than me. She's below my shoulder. So for me to see the car wheels in front of me, I can see them still. She can't. She thinks I've hit them. I'm a fair distance away. What are you on about?
I've gotten used to being in smaller cars and smaller spaces. It's not so much a problem for me. I know I got at a driving so they put the chair all the way back for me, and I just moved it a bit forward because I was so used to cramped spaces. If I have too much space, then I get nervous. Like, this is too much. So I do sit in cramped spaces and I've learned how to drive that way.
For me, like,
and that's
I've
more
tried.
comfortable because I'm used to it.
I've honestly tried, but if it gives me physical pain,
obviously if it's too small, then it's obviously a problem.
I can't drive then. Like the most I can go is like half an hour in like a small car, which isn't that long. Even just then, beyond that, it's like we only can drive 2 hours a day or whatever. Beyond that, we can't do anything else. Ooh, what's this? Why do you keep sending weird messages in the chat?
That's because that's what I've been doing this whole time.
Yeah, it's
Why?
very funny.
If your best friend got in the kiln, would you get in the kiln? That's a good Australian thing. Auntie Donna.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been spending this whole stream just on Premiere Pro making gifts.
Is that what you were doing?
Yeah.
Oh, did you make that gift?
No, I'm not sending random ones. I made these. I cropped them myself.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you.
All of them?
All the ones I've sent, yeah.
I was joking. Go fuck yourself.
That being said, that doesn't mean they're mine. These are literally Auntie stuff I'm cropping. But like the ones I've sent are ones I've just uploaded to Giphy.
Well, your last one was the best one.
Well, yeah, because that one I've actually put an effort into.
Yes.
The others I just cropped. This one I've put in words.
Partially why we gave the name the Kiln. Admittedly, like a little bit of origin behind like us three was like just at a random like school day where it's like we just get to be in activities. We just called each other Trash, which is such a simple name. It's just a stupid name. That of course
it was trivia, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was for trivia.
Yeah.
It was trivia thing.
We were
like,
horrible.
we'll nail it. We were like, we're gonna
horrible.
nail this. We know things, and then they asked like, well, who won the AFL? And like, okay, we've lost.
Yeah.
Immediately done.
It was still funny to do, but we were so shit at it. We were drastically shit at it.
And we just named ourselves Trash, but we put a $sign in the S, and we're like, that's cool, that's special, we've done it. And
It's not really that special. But of course,
no, it's not special at all.
No. Of course, like when it came time to like start a podcast and be known as more than just Trash, going to different ways, I think partially responsible for this was Auntie Donna for the kiln or the idea of a kiln, and I just kind of like the idea of like being in a kiln, like it's heat.
Yes, it worked.
You get to hear us spout nonsense, and then beyond that, it kind of became its own thing eventually. Like, and this was ages ago. This was ages before starting the podcast that I created the kiln. And then I think Caleb and I both chose Phaeton to be our mascot of the kiln simply because he was like, okay, we're a bunch of weebs. What are we going to talk about? We need some sort of mascot. I like having a mascot, and so I think one of the best things was Phaeton for this job because of the way his firepower worked. And also, if you look at an image of a kiln, there's a bunch of weird options for a kiln image, which is essentially just a weird box.
Yeah.
So we needed something to represent it, and no one's power represented the kiln more than Phaeton. So it just worked. And then Kiln was born. If we go by any other names that I've forgotten, I don't know. We're the walking around the oval group.
What did you say? I zoned out completely.
Walking around the oval group. That's us.
Oh, good times.
No, I remember once in school, like we were just all watching an anime that I was showing them on my phone, like on the oval. When a teacher came up to us and thought we were watching porn.
Yeah. Admittedly, and only until then did I realize, hey, this is actually a bit sus, yeah.
It was funny though, because he saw that we were watching anime. He's like,
prepared
okay.
for that occasion. We're like, alright, we're gonna get to the canteen, we're gonna get the cola and the potato chip. For no fucking reason. So we'll watch a marathon. We get this cola, we get some chips. We need to get in the spirits. Why we did that? I don't know, but it's one of my fondest memories now because of it.
It was funny. And the incident, one of the greatest incidents involving us three, and one of the things like I partially call us is Ham Boys because of that incident.
Which one?
The one where we are all in sync saying Dan Dan Ham.
Oh, that was
best moment.
And even beyond that, like anytime it comes to ham, usually we're in sync randomly.
Yeah.
and Caleb and I even started a trend of like adding ham to people's characters' names. So it's not Wonder Woman, it's Wonder Ham and whatnot.
Wonder Ham.
There was literally a hero called Spider Ham too.
Yeah, that's tough.
Wonder Wuham.
Wonder Woman.
Yes.
Random things like that. If we go by any other names, I don't know. Dumbasses.
What'd you call me?
I called us.
Yeah,
Fathers of Kite.
Ah! And again. I got another GIF. I gotta make it real quick.
Just random things, I guess.
I love how we go off topic though, which I think is
Oh fuck, Australia!
Is it? We're Australian. It doesn't matter. Fuck it. Anything we talk about is Australian. I say. Just like any food my mum cooks is technically Greek food because a Greek cooked it. Anything we say is Australian because we're Australian and we say it.
One of the one of the interesting things that one of the channels I watch, or I used to watch, I don't watch it much anymore, but it's still a good channel. I actually liked it because he went off topic a lot.
Yeah.
And they would be talking about one thing, and then all of a sudden they could be
feels
talking about like
partially.
they could be talking about like fucking sheep, and then all of a sudden they start talking about Dragon Ball through some.
Yeah.
I find that enjoyable, so I sort of like it when we go off topic because it's like, yeah, you know.
That's fine. Sometimes, like even I can recognize, like sometimes the conversation goes randomly into a specific topic if these people are left in a group. If it's Caleb, myself, and Vigesh in a call alone, the topic's gonna end up on food. I know it.
Oh yeah.
It ends up on food so many times when we're alone in a call. When it's just us three, it always goes to food randomly.
Okay. Hang on. I forgot what it was called. Hang on. I'm talking about food. I discovered that we like fairy bread is not just Australian.
What?
It is shared by one other country.
What?
All right, and that is
Hang on, what? What?
I think it's the Dutch, and they have something called hagelslag. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but I don't care.
That
Well,
sounds very weird.
And it's the Netherlands. Okay, in the Netherlands they have something called hagelslag, which is just fairy bread. So we share Australia and the Netherlands. We share an absolutely godly food.
I don't know. Haggle.
Bro, Caleb,
whatever
I
you
was
said,
on
the
the-
haggle thing sounds very weird.
I'm always like on the verge of zoning out. I'm not actively speaking. I was about to, and he said we're not the only ones with fairy bread. My brain is immediately like, what?
Next, this
That
man's
makes-
gonna say we're not the only ones who have Lamington. Lamingtons.
I can't remember
Or
where I
pavlova.
saw it, but it was somewhere, and I was like, wait, what? We share a food, a fantastic fucking.
You know, just even on food itself, it's hard to denote just Australian food because it's just so multicultural.
Yeah,
We of
That's
course
true.
have like the obvious ones of pavlova, lamington, and fairy bread, but that's it. That's all I really think about. Of course, we have. It's just one of those weird things where it's like we don't really have a food item, whatever, that we created besides those ones. I'm gonna actually look this up. Australian food. I want to see what comes up. What is defined? Oh, number one. This is I'm just Australia's 10 most popular traditional foods. We didn't create this one, but it is something that is so Australian. And Caleb, you know this one very well. Chicken parmesan.
Matt. Okay, so with Palmers,
That's number one. That's number one.
I don't really have. It's gonna sound weird because I'm Italian. I'm half Italian, but
Yeah.
I don't have it with sauce.
Yeah, but that's because you don't like
However,
sausages.
schnitzels in general are fucking good, and I'll tell you what, when I went to Phillip Island, right, I had one of the best the greatest like inventions ever. It was an Aussie palm, right, and what it was is it was like so I obviously didn't put the sauce on, but it was like gravy, egg, and then I think bacon as well, and cheese.
Yeah.
On top of a schnitzel, and it was genius.
Mm.
The person who invented that is a fucking genius.
Mm.
It was perfect.
Number 2 says barbecue snags. Now I never call snags
I don't call
snags.
them snags,
I
but
just
I
call them
love 'em.
sausages.
Sausages and bread.
Yes. But number 2 does, and I can understand that kind of culture behind sausages. Like you have, of course, Bunnings and whatnot who have like the snag in front, and even just like on random days, if like the school's giving you food, they'll always give you bloody sausages.
Yeah, but I love them.
Yeah. Number 3 is Lamingtons. Okay. Yep. If you don't know what a Lamington is, it's basically like a weird cakey thing covered in chocolate and coconut. It's whatever. Pavlova. Pavlova is a weird thing. Such a weird thing, pavlova.
I don't think I've ever had pavlova actually, which
You know,
is
number 6, fair point. Fair.
It's what?
It has a fair point for number 6, and that's meat pies. Is a very
Oh, yeah.
Australian thing. Like,
yeah.
obviously, we didn't create it. I assume English created it, and that culture kind of sunk in over time. But it becomes such an Australian thing. Whether you're at a sports event and you have a meat pie, or even one of the biggest things of like a school was like meat pies. You could just have them at school for snack or lunch or whatever. And then if there's any other pie, it's like that's our pie. The meat pies, I feel like our apple pie for Americans, I guess. That's how it's fun. What the fuck is this?
Although I mean,
Barramundi.
admittedly, meat pies I think are a little bit different in the fact that they're more of a snack
Yeah.
than like a dessert or
No,
something
no,
special to
yeah,
have. I
it's not
suppose.
dessert. No, it's more of a actual food that you would eat.
Like you'll go to the footy and have them.
They're a lot smaller and whatnot. Vegemite on toast. Pumpkin soup.
I've never been a fan of Vegemite. I'll be
No,
honest with you.
I cannot stand
I
it.
like Vegemite.
You're the outlier here.
What? Tim Tams. Oh, Tim Tams.
Oh!
Tim Tams are pretty pog, yeah.
Yeah, and there's so many different ones. Like, there's so many great ones. I love the white chocolate ones. I love.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Like you get the Tim Tam, and then you get a glass of milk, and then you sip your glass of milk with the Tim Tam.
Anzac cookies. Just.
I heard that for the first time once. I'm like, what the fuck do you mean? You bite the ends off and you drink it. Oh, I didn't like, that's no way that's gonna work. And it worked. I'm like, that's fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it.
Anzac cookies, I've never been the biggest fan of. They're fine, and I
They're
understand.
fine. And they're always meant to be just fine.
Yeah.
I understand like their significance, so fair enough. But yeah, you know, they're not the greatest thing ever created. I mean, of course they weren't meant to be. They were meant to be just little treats for the soldiers.
Well, more like long lasting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, they could actually make them with limited resources that they had.
Yeah.
That was also a very big point about it. I don't know. But it's like, none of these food items, like, I don't like pie. That's just a general thing about me. I don't really like any pie. I've tried a lot of pie. I don't like pie. I barely like quiche. I don't know what it is. Just don't like
Fair
it.
enough.
I just don't like it. Just one of random things that
Don't
Really?
like it.
don't like it. No, I don't like
Yeah, but
it.
you like Vegemite, so we didn't care about your opinion.
What? I don't like steak.
You know. Thanks.
Eh. It's not like I'm gonna sit here saying like, oh, all Greek food is amazing. No, fuck some of the Greek dishes. I don't like some of them. I actively say to my mum, I hate this. I'm not eating this shit. Because I really do not like it. But that's what happens with, I feel like, every cuisine. You're not gonna love everything. So it's like,
Sometimes, Ethan, I feel like you're meaner to your mother.
huh? What?
Sometimes I feel like you're meaner to your mother than I am to.
I don't know what you're on about. Yeah, but you forget my mum fights back.
I just don't speak to her. So because of that, and if I don't say anything and you say you're cooking shit, fuck you, and you go to your room, like which is really being mean here?
Well, that's not what I say. I'm just saying I'm not eating this. I'm obviously over exaggerating. It's more just like nah, not in that. There's also another thing where it's like my mum knows what I like and don't like. So when she makes it, it's like okay, or I more say instead of that, it's like okay, what am I eating? Because she knows I won't eat it. Food.
It's fucking hot.
It is hot. We're in a real kiln.
I've got my air conditioner on, so I don't know what you're talking about.
I've got some shitty $60 AC, which just blows air at me.
I don't even.
Better
have
than
an AC.
hot air, but
I turned off all my fans so my microphone wouldn't get annoyed. So I've been
Yeah.
sitting here for almost 2 hours, kind of just sweating.
sounds like an issue, not an issue me.
I know. But I'll endure.
Will we?
I mean, I'm not gonna fucking leave the room after the kiln. Like, I can't live in this room.
I'm getting out of here. I'm getting fucking in my bedroom and I'll lie down.
I'm
in
just
the
gonna
fucking
put
air
some fans
conditioning.
on, and that's basically it.
I'm gonna go and bask in my bedroom for like 10 minutes, and come back in this fucking kiln of the study.
No, that's one of the most annoying things, though. Obviously in summer, being upstairs in my room, it's not a possible thing.
Oh.
Because obviously heat rises. And if it's in a house, where does all the heat go?
Yep.
Especially in summer. So sometimes, like even just last night, we were even just considering like sleeping downstairs. Which for me, sleeping downstairs is more just me sleeping on the floor.
Legendary.
I know, it helps sometimes. Like, hey, you can sleep on the floor. People complain. When people complain about sleeping on the floor, I never understood it. Like, I'm sure, like, yeah, okay, come.
Well, you don't have to understand everyone's complaints that everyone
Yeah.
thinks.
I've slept on the floor many of times.
Then you have a better back than those people.
I have actually very good posture. Which I'm glad I have because otherwise
My posture is only good around you. Every time I'm with any person ever, I slouch a bit. I try and go like, okay, let's try and get more to their level. Not you. No, you make it difficult for me.
Admittedly, I do the same thing. I just slouch a bit, like if I'm trying to talk to my mum, like and we're out or whatnot. But I usually just have like good posture. I sit straight. Why not? Food is weird. Food is funny, and in Australia, I
Also
like to
tasty.
eat many a culture's foods. I go num num num.
Nom nom nom.
Num num num. Yes. Num num num.
Tasty. Tasty food.
Tasty food. What is it? What is an Australian thing? Oh, slang. Slang.
Oh, yeah, true.
A big Australian thing that we have not talked about is slang. Now, I personally don't use majority of the slang.
You sometimes say that, but then sometimes you hear people understanding the few slangs you do use, and you're
Yeah.
like, why? But of course they wouldn't if they're not Australian.
I don't use a lot of them, but I've partially had to learn some of them. Like, I've never said, like, properly in a sentence besides explaining that I never say this word. Servo.
Yeah, I don't think I've used it.
But
That
still, it's like
fuel
one of those
station
things where it's like I had to learn what it meant and what not.
My aunt asked me before, what's the difference between the shortening of afternoon and avocado? Because she, for some reason, could hardly hear the difference between Arvo and Avo.
Okay.
So I'm like, it's just the R and the A. It's context. If
Yeah.
that's much of a problem, just say we'll meet in the Arvo. What, the avocado?
I mean, I never say Arvo. That's another one. Like,
I mostly write.
I'm looking at this list. Like, it's just it has a bunch, of course. And
Let's look at some
Arvo and
Australian
Arvo is obviously on there. Whatever. And like the first one it says here is a cold one.
Ah, gold one.
Which,
Crapper and
of
gold
course, I
was.
know that. I feel like that's not something that should be hard to know. I feel like that's quite standard. Just a beer.
I'm surprised we're the only ones who use that, to be honest.
I don't feel like we are though. I don't know. It feels weird if we are.
That's just how most slang would work.
Hmm.
What are 5 Aussie slangs or phrases? And this answers with 125 of them.
Barbie.
Barbie, I think I've used Barbie before.
I say barbecue a lot more than Barbie. I'm not saying I haven't said it before. Just not something I would usually say.
I'd say shrimp on the Barbie as a joke, but obviously
Obviously, there are
you
some
don't
ones.
say that.
Obviously, there are some ones where in our culture, I don't really think of it as slang because that's how we know the word, and that's how it kind of integrated within our culture over the word another country would use, such
that
as
slang?
thongs. I mean, Americans say flip flops. It's like they're two different words. It's not really slang.
You know what I think is really interesting?
Hmm?
The way McDonald's
Rubbers.
has advertised itself in Australia.
It's
They
wonderful.
fully embrace Macca's.
Yeah.
They're always I get emails. It's not McDonald's employees. It's Macca's employees.
I remember.
I'm very amused by that.
Another argument I had with an American was them complaining that we call it Macca's, and they were questioning us as like, why is it Macca's? Why is yours Mickey D's? There's no
Mickey D's nuts.
No. But Macca's is actually short for McDonald's. Mickey D's uses the same amount of syllables for McDonald's. There is no difference in saying McDonald's and Mickey D's.
Mickey D's
Realistically.
nuts.
Macca's is actually shorter.
Yeah, exactly. What are other ones? Bathers for swimsuit. Yeah.
Didn't even know it was slang. It was just like, you have bathers.
Yeah, it's bathers.
Yeah. What?
Swimsuit.
I
there was
didn't
just
know until I
alternating
read
words.
up on it later, but like,
Yeah.
when I initially use it, it's just fucking bathers. What are the extents of how much we can swear on Twitch?
I don't know.
Okay.
Like, we can say fucking or not.
Well, yeah, but can we say cunt?
Oh,
We've said it before.
too late
Well-
now.
Too late.
And
Cunt.
that's another one. That's another one thing where it's like, it's such a difference here when you say cunt, because it really just, especially the way you're saying it and the way it's it's such a friendly thing. Like, there's even been like some signs that have been changed or whatever to say cunt on it, because like in our country we don't find it offensive at all. And
Depends who you
it's
say
weird.
to the
No,
old-
there
the
are
old-
some people that would
Yeah.
find it offensive.
Oh,
There's never no. But then again, that's not
No.
all. On one hand, it can be a swear word. On the other hand, people can get offended by the stupidest thing.
Yeah.
So whatever.
But it's no real difference between saying cunt and dick, really. They're essentially the same thing. Except different. But yeah, you're basically saying the same thing. What else is there? Brekkie for breakfast. I never said
brekkie, yeah.
No.
Brekkie, I've used that before.
Yeah. I use
Bottle-o. Nah.
That's. I genuinely thought it was just a brand.
Me
Is
too,
it?
when I was younger, yeah, I
Is it?
assumed it was a brand as well.
Isn't there a brand called Bottle-o?
There might be, honestly. The bush. I mean,
Out
it's
in
not
the
really
bush.
slang, that's just kind of just what it is.
Yeah. No, there is a
Chock-a-block.
brand. It is a brand, Bottle-o.
Yeah, I know there is a brand, but I thought it was just the brand.
Yeah, me too.
Oh,
thought it was
yeah,
just a
no, I
brand.
get you.
Chock-a-block meaning full, yeah. Bicky and biscuit. That was one of the weirdest things always. When Americans, with biscuit, it always confused the shit out of me.
I mean, Australians could be confused by American slang.
Yeah, of course. But like, biscuit specifically always confused me more for it's like, because their biscuits aren't at all what we're used to saying for biscuit. And even the English use the same word for biscuit, because it's essentially just a... And Caleb and I even had a conversation about how we would say what's a biscuit and what's a cookie, because we use the same words. We use both of them, but it depends on the type of biscuit or cookie that it is, but realistically they're the same thing. But in America, a biscuit is a weird bread thing that I never could understand. What the hell is? It's like a bready scone, I assume. I don't know. What else is there? The coppers for policemen. Is that really slang?
No, I think that's something some of us might say, the coppers. We'd more say,
Robs and
I think the difference is that we would say coppers instead of cops.
Did you just say robs and coppers?
What is it? What's the game? I don't remember it.
Cops and robbers.
Cops
Cop and robbers, yeah.
Coppers.
Robs and coppers.
Robs. You have to rob the coppers.
No,
I'm
they
trying to
just
make the
cops
word
chasing a guy
right.
named Rob.
Crikey. Never said that. Very, very weird.
Nah, I've never seen
But
it.
it is a very Australian thing with Steve Owen and such.
This one
But
says
I didn't
Dax.
say it.
But okay, this is a weird one because
Is that pants?
Yeah, it's trousers, but it's like it's tracker Dax. It's not really. I don't really hear anyone say Dax. Devo for definitely no.
Then again, in other places of Australia, and most notably more rural areas,
Yeah.
or the entirety of Western Australia would use these far more often.
Yeah, Dunny for
When I
toilet.
went to-
No, I just say fucking toilet.
When I went to visit my family up in Perth, they said a bunch of it, and I'm like, the fuck are you saying to me?
Yeah. A durry for cigarette. No.
Ah, Durry.
Yeah.
Esky is a weird one. Because, see, on this thing it just says esky, and the thing is an insulated container that keeps things cold. So my only assumption is an esky. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because I use that word. What is that?
What is?
This one says Facey for Facebook. No, never heard
never
that.
heard
No.
that before.
What? What?
This one I've heard.
Facey.
This one I've heard Caleb say. Fair dinkum.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Fair dinkum, you furfies.
Don't use it. Flat out. I don't know. Footy for football.
I've heard people say
fair
that,
enough.
but I don't say it.
Footy and football. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, 40, yeah, nah.
Good day. I barely say it. I'd say hello.
Are you on Nomad's World?
What?
The site for looking at the slang.
No.
I'm on one with like over 125. On mine, it's got I didn't realize it was Australian. Fuck me dead.
That's Australian.
Apparently so, according to the site.
Huh.
Fuck me dead. That's
I've heard
unfortunate.
Americans say
That
fuck me.
surprises me.
Nah, I don't think that's.
Well, no, they'd say fuck me, but this is fuck me dead.
Goon for a wine in a box.
What? A goon? I
Goon
haven't
for
heard
wine
that.
in a box.
The best invention ever produced by mankind. Goon is a cheap boxed wine that will inevitably become an integral part of your Australian backpacking experience.
This one. Alright, this one I do use. Alright, good on ya. But
Good on you.
But it's one it says good work, but I always use it sarcastically.
Good job.
Yeah.
So when I say good on ya, that just kind of means I don't give a shit what the hell you did. Good for you.
Yeah.
What do you want from me? That's what I translate it as.
If he's Australian,
Heaps for loads, lots, or many. Okay, yeah, that's Australian one.
that's Australian.
Yeah, heaps. It's a weird Australian one.
Could have fooled me.
Iffy for a bit risky or unreasonable.
That I did not know it was Australian.
I think it's more the translation was a bit weird. Iffy, risky or unreasonable. I usually always, I guess, whatever. Mozzie for mosquito. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
It's got
Mate for
What's
friend.
the-
No, it's cunt for friend. Get it right.
the amount of times I hear people like go off, I guess, or something, because it says here going off is another Australian term.
Yeah. It also says no worries is an Australian term.
Then I get that.
Yeah. I just as I feel like I use the more reasonable ones here.
Lollies. Okay.
That's not really that's not really slang though, because the word is completely different. Candy, lollies, sweets—they're all the same shit.
Yeah, and then that's why it's slang, because we say we can
But
say lollies.
It gets me into too much trouble when I say lollies.
Then don't
Because
say
usually the
lollies.
people I talk to are obviously weebs and nerds and whatever. And anytime I say lollies, they think little girls.
Oh,
I hate it.
Fucking idiots.
Yeah.
oh, fucking
They're
god!
fucking idiots.
And then they laugh at me and they're judging me because I said lollies. It's like, you don't hear me fucking judging you in the call. Like, seriously.
You judge them behind their backs.
Yeah, that's different.
See, but it's funny because I judge them when they judge me.
Yeah.
Like I don't really have a problem with people's accent, but if they start judging mine, then I'm gonna start judging the American one. Like what?
Yeah. Like, the easiest way that always gets to them, I feel like, is saying y'all.
Then again, on this one, we've got yous.
You.
Yeah, I've actually
Yeah,
been saying
all of yous.
A sanger for sandwich. No. A
I've never heard
toasty
that.
for grilled cheese.
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
No, I don't use toasty. I never use toasty.
What do you say? Grilled sandwich?
I said grilled cheese.
Why?
Because that's what I've always said.
Toasty is shorter, bruh.
So? Toasty sounds weirder.
According to you?
Yes.
Okay.
Rooted, tired, or broken. I don't think that's what it means.
I wouldn't assume rooted to be Australian.
I don't assume rooted to mean that. Rooted in my head means more sex.
Oh no,
Yeah.
I don't see that.
Yep.
I've never really heard rooted as tired or broken.
I've heard
Ripper.
root in terms of sex.
Rallo for relatives. Yeah, that's a very
I've not heard that one.
I've heard it before, but like I feel like it's a lot more of a bogan thing to say.
I've heard rallies.
Yeah, rallies is also
Rallies,
here.
rallies is more common than rallos.
Yeah. Stoked. Happy or
Really?
pleased. Yeah, apparently stoked is a more Australian word.
Once again, could have fooled me.
Sicky. Okay, yeah, we use sicky.
Yeah, sicky. Yeah.
Full of sicky.
He pulled the sicky. It's more the phrasing of it. Like I never say sicky on its own. It's always he pulled a sicky because I love saying that. He pulled a sicky, and it's always fun because it was always Caleb who pulled the sicky.
It was funny because like you initially we called it pulling a jack because Jack used to do it a bit,
Yeah.
and then I started doing it more. But I kept calling it pulling a jack.
Sunnies for sunglasses. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll put on some sunnies right now. Fuck you. I'm in my room. My curtains closed. I'll do it. What else
See,
is on this?
This one says right here, true blue means genuinely Australian. Yeah, I don't think that really works.
What was it?
True blue means genuinely Australian.
Well, true blue Aussie.
I've heard true blue before. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard true blue Aussie, not just true blue by itself.
This one just says true blue.
This one also says runners, which I didn't
Oh
know
yeah,
they
runners.
expected.
Yeah. Yeah, runners.
And then in the UK, it's was it sneakers, and then in the US trainers, or one of what?
Reverse
or maybe
them,
they
I
switched.
think. Reverse them. I think.
Yeah,
it's
if one of those,
England is
it's one of the
trainers.
other.
I know it's American sneakers.
But I know that I've seen them have like, I don't know where I saw it, some video on the internet. American is from the UK, just like, where are you sneaking? Where are you training? And we're like running. The runners. Always been runners to me.
I mean, runners. I feel like it's a very simplistic word for it. Sneakers is the weirdest one.
I
Trainers, I'm fine
love
with.
runners.
Sneakers
I
is
love
the
wearing
weird one.
runners because I never run.
Mm.
But I only exclusively wear runners. Sheila.
Yeah. I think I've heard it before. But I don't.
I've never heard someone use
I don't
it
use it.
before. I know
I've
what
heard it been
means.
used, but I don't. I've heard it been used, but I don't use it myself. Why is tea dinner here? That's just okay.
No, I love it. Like when with the big man, oh fuck, Sabbath was saying how he did an Australian accent and said no. He stated that you have to say every vowel when when Aussie says no.
And he's right. He's fucking correct.
No.
No.
But
No.
the better one is yeah nah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nah.
nah.
Yeah, nah.
Yeah, nah, yeah.
Yeah, nah.
I'll say
Yeah, nah.
I say that
No.
a lot.
No.
Quite a lot.
One of my favorite Australian slangs is whoop whoop.
Whoop whoop. Yeah. Whoop whoop.
Whoop whoop
yeah,
is a good one. Whoop whoop is a
Fuck, I
great
love that
one. You gotta love whoop whoop. Caleb, you're in whoop whoop.
Kilo is a whoop whoop.
Yep.
Us not explaining what half of these words mean. Whoop
Oh
whoop.
yeah, why bother? Fuck you.
Figure it out.
Figure
Just
out.
think of what do you think will, you know?
Could mean anything. Fairy floss is one we use because obviously cotton candy is said a lot.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, what? Then what else would they say? Right, cotton candy.
Yeah.
I mean, there was literally in the manga we read recently.
Mm.
They didn't say fairy floss. I didn't even think twice about it. My screen is so dark. Should take these off.
Hungry Jacks. That's not really slang. That's just
It's not
more they had to
slang.
change
It's
the
just
name.
branding.
Yeah. But still, I prefer Hungry Jacks over Burger King. The identity, I mean. Just because Hungry Jacks feels a lot more casual. And it helps, I guess, integrate it within our country and identify as an Australian thing over just being Burger King, just rebranded.
Yeah.
Icy pole for
That's
popsicle.
interesting.
Yeah,
I've used icy pole a lot.
yeah, icy pole I use.
Yeah,
Popsicles
they
sounds
are
American.
just icy pole.
Yeah.
If it's an ice treat, it's an icy pole, or it's very specifically a super duper.
Yeah,
That's in my head.
yeah, yeah, that's how it works. Skull to down beer. Are we the
Yeah,
only
skull
ones
of
who
beer.
use that?
Yeah, I've heard skull. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard it. I've heard it.
You
of
can
course,
say
but,
skull
like,
to me, and I'm like, what the fucking bone? But if in reference to a beer, then yeah, I'll immediately
like if you're
understand.
drinking something and you say skull it, of course you don't know what it means.
Yeah, but without that context, I'm
Yeah,
like,
if I
it's
just
your
say
fucking-
skull.
it's your fucking cranium, bro.
I'm surprised that is Australian. Like that's specifically Australian. I swear I've heard skull some like in other places
Yeah,
as
I'm
well.
sure
but-
some of these are used in other places, but I don't feel like some of them are definitely very Australian.
I can understand many New Zealand's
Yeah.
will probably have some.
I mean,
yeah.
bogan is a very Australian word, but I don't feel like that's really as like I don't know. It's just what it is. Bogan is what it
I
is.
love that when other countries think of Australians, they think of bogans.
Because I do. Because that's how we've been represented in media.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
And
just
it's
the way
always
it
that
is.
shit accent that they try and pull off. Because of course,
Because they don't hire Australians for it.
yeah,
Very few people can pull off the Aussie accent.
properly, yeah.
Yeah.
The more
And
common.
there's so many
accent
variations of it anyway. So even if I
Yeah, there are I think three
That's true.
common ones, and of course like you have small little ones outside of that. But I feel like there are three common ones. There's of course like the rural one. There's the one that we all use, which is a lot more Queen's English like and proper Australian. I feel if you're talking. And then I forgot what the third one is, but I know it exists.
There's also the Aboriginal one.
Oh yeah. Aboriginal.
I love the Aboriginal accent.
Sometimes even just from your accent, you can kind of tell what culture you're from, which is such a weird thing to me.
Mm.
Like I remember, like there were some bits where it's like, oh, this person is speaking. You can't see their face at all, but you hear them talk, and the way they talk, you could just make assumptions, and those assumptions are, for some reason, all the assumptions were always right in terms of what nationality they were, and like there was this show that I was just randomly watching because I thought it was stupid, where these people like got dressed up and they dated each other and they can't,
Oh my
so it's
God.
not based off appearance. Yeah, just a stupid thing, and
I remember this show.
yeah.
You talk about it, I mean. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it was just a stupid thing. But I remember them. I remember watching it and thinking, alright. And just the way they talk, the way they used words, the way they flowed, I could tell that most of the males were African American because of the way they spoke. And that happens the same with
And
if
the
you're-
mannerisms, I'd imagine.
Yeah. Of course that happens the same with if you're of a specific other culture, like if you're I forget what's the national New Zealand one? What's the New Zealand one? They have a
Kiwi?
very unique.
Or Maori.
Yeah, Maori. Maori has a very distinct accent
Yeah,
in the way
fair
they
enough
say
so.
things. Same with Aboriginal, same with other cultures, a lot like that. Just the way they talk. Sometimes, of course, they can be mixed up because, I mean, if you're of a European thing, unless you're from, I guess. Actually, even if you're from England, you could probably, even if you're from Britain, you could probably tell from the accent. Because they have multiple accents of what? Yeah, the English, and even in England, they have multiple accents of English. Which is, again, weird. Accent is weird. But it's also a thing that exists. Also, it has been a while, and I do kind of want to end the stream because it is very hot.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, true.
So,
How long has it been?
and we've kind of just went on random rants. So I think, okay, this is enough time.
That's probably a good point to end it.
So thank you all for not listening. I don't really care. It's hot. It's very hot. Goodbye.
Well, there